what does it take to get the previous employees to buy in?
Doing what you say. I'll go back to consistency. At Cabinetworks, let's put this at Cabinetworks.
Yep.
So at Cabinetworks, the first thing I did in my first town hall meeting, I told everyone, every quarter we have these town halls, I'm going to give back to the employees. You hadn't never heard that before. And when I did it, quarter one, quarter two, now last month, quarter six, every quarter, now they're like, geez, this guy's real.
What's going on, Sarasota? As always, my name is Brad Hannon.
Trey Martell.
Felipe Colon.
And we've got a very special guest. I'm excited about this. As a learning and growing CEO, we've got probably one of the best CEOs we've had on this podcast. We've got former PGT CEO, now CEO of Cabinetworks, Jeff Jackson. How you doing, Jeff?
Great, Brad, and thanks for that intro, man. I appreciate that.
I'm just being honest. Listen, there's one thing that I am very good at, and it's being direct. And I told you I wasn't excited about this episode when I first saw the email until I looked you up and I saw, okay, he's the real deal.
And to continue tooting your horn, his mother walked down the hallway and tapped us on the shoulder and goes, "He looks like a badass."
Oh, really? Just while ago.
Just 10 minutes ago.
My mom,
How old's your mom?
she's, I think she's mid-40s, we'll say. But she knows a badass when she sees one because she raised me, right?
Obviously. Jeez, come on.
This is her first week, by the way. She started with my company this week, and she's cleaning out fridges and putting together cabinets, and she's doing some awesome stuff, but it's really exciting. We'll never, ever get rid of my mom. She's my number one employee now, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Anyways, about Jeff, can we go back to PGT first?
Sure.
Is that okay? That's a big deal. Like, that company was doing over $1 billion in revenue. Yep. You navigated a successful acquisition. You took that company public. So, and I saw previous to that, I think Hershey, right?
Yep.
Schwann's, which I remember the Schwann's truck coming around, ordering, getting your Schwann's. That was back in the day.
I think something important to point out is PGT was a local big company that does serious manufacturing and competes at a national level, which we just don't have a lot of that around here, which is, something that also set Jeff apart.
All right, someone asked the man a question already.
Go for it.
There's a question. I mean, tell us about the PGT exit, I guess.
First, thank you for that plug for PGT. You're right. We were a local company, born here back in 1980 is when PGT was founded. And we grew that company locally to over 2,500 employees. So that made us, at the time, the largest private employer in the county. Obviously, the county government's a little bit bigger than PGT was. But
not the hospital, though, right?
Hospital in the county, yes.
2,500. The hospital's, how many employees did they?
Had a lot of nurses there, a lot of shifts. I think it's 24 hours a day, man.
Okay, fair enough.
So it was a good run. I spent 20 years there at PGT. So a little bit about it. It was founded in 1980 by Rod Hirschberger and Paul Hosteller. It was a smaller company for a long time. Private equity came in and bought out Paul. Once that happened, Rod rolled into that CEO role. And the private equity company wanted to take it public. And at the time, earlier, Brad, to your point, I was with Hershey. I was vice president corporate controller for Hershey, the chocolate company up in Hershey, PA. And
they were pretty big too, right?
Yeah, a little north of $5 billion. And I was over both supply chain and accounting, operational control there. It was a great job, great gig. Great company, but the thought of getting back down to sandy beaches and palm trees and sun.
There you go.
It got me. So I said yes and joined PGT in November 2005.
How does that transition look? Does someone come recruiting you like a headhunter?
They did. It was actually the same headhunter that had recruited me in the past, somebody from a company called Korn Ferry. There's probably 5 or 6 large headhunters in the U.S. and nationally.
They're the biggest.
Korn Ferry is the biggest. And they had actually recruited me back in the day from Coca-Cola to Mrs. Smith's Bakeries, a pie company, to be CFO at that company. And I kept in touch, networking. It's all about networking, relationships. And so I kept in touch with her and she and with me. And when this opportunity came about, she called me. And, 22 years later, we're here today.
So safe to say you're kind of like, CEO, like top level executive for hire under really strategic circumstances.
Brad, it's safe to say I'm a redneck from Georgia, Bowden, Georgia, actually, a town of about 2,500. And my parents never, they grew up, they had a 10th grade education. So, dude, I wasn't even supposed to go to college.
I love that.
All right, but with that said, yeah, I've been blessed. Been really blessed over my life and got some great breaks, had some great mentors in my life, and just a passion to drive and do what I wanted to do, which was ultimately run a company.
I love that. Yeah. I gotta know, just from your perspective, maybe what people have told you as well. What would you say your greatest skill set is? Your the attributes, because CFO, CEO, controller, vice president, those are still very different positions in an organization as large as those. What's the skills that have translated across all those roles that made you successful?
Yeah, Brad, that's a great question. I think that's changed over time. I think initially it was more that hired gun, get it done, change, recruit people, turn around company. I think as I've grown in my career, it's more I got to be the coach. And rarely does that happen in a company where you're coming into a company, you're hired for a certain purpose. That was to take PGT public in 2006 and end up running it 20 years later as the CEO. So I moved from, I'd say, hired gun to a coach and building a team.
So building a team. Let's back up a little bit more, actually. I'm interested in this, and I'm glad you brought it up. You said your parents only had a 10th grade education. Obviously, they pushed you to go a little bit farther. What was your background and kind of what slot did you come into the corporate world in the first place? Because usually somebody's got an expertise, whether it's finance, legal, supply chain, right? You start somewhere before you get to the CEO role.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. But actually, my parents didn't really push me to go to college. They were workers. My dad was a fire chief, local fire. He worked his way up, made fire chief. My mom worked in a sewing machine shop. So his idea of me being successful was getting a job, contributing to the community. And so he got me on as a police officer for a local town, Carrollton. And so I was going to school on my own dime, and policing. So that's kind of how I got started.
Very cool.
What got me into the kind of real world was I got blessed, married a woman who kind of said, hey, you're good at numbers. And she was right, I was. So I turned my career from criminal justice into accounting. And I kind of came into the business world as an accountant. I got hired by KPMG, which KPMG is the largest international accounting firm. Mm-hmm. And right at a great time, I got to go, my first assignment with KPMG was actually in San Jose, California. So I lived in Palo Alto, which was like the tech boom of the U.S. At the time, I'm almost 60 years old now. At the time, the internet wasn't around, but Apple was just coming up with the first laptop. So I was there on the ground, and we got to take companies public. We had angel investors. I got experience on all that, and that's kind of what gave me where I'm at today. It gave me that.
Right. No, so you had an interesting client base working for a company like KPMG.
I did.
The best companies in the world hire them.
Yes.
And you were able to kind of see the vision and how they worked. And
at a very high level, too.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it was great.
This is like my favorite kind of episode, right? Because this for me is like, I don't care if one person watches this or nobody watches this. Like, we're here, we're just having a discussion, and we're all able to learn from somebody that's obviously gone far. You spoke about mentors, right? When you started down the business path, finance, all that. Who were the most influential people in your life, and how did you kind of select them? Because so many of us, and myself included, I'm just leaving a business conference I went to a couple weeks ago, and I've always had mentors in my life, and I recently got voted for the Business Observer's 40 Under 40, which was exciting, and they asked me, "Who's your mentor?" And
Trey Martell.
That question.
You're welcome, son.
I could have went to Trey.
So proud of you.
Could have went to Trey. But that question kind of rocked me a little bit. And then I go to this conference we're talking about inner circles and who's in your life, and I'm like, you know what? I've gotten away from all of the things that got me to this point, right? And having great mentors. And so, in selecting those mentors, what did you do? Did they find you? Did you find them? I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. And I've had blessed with a number of mentors over my career. KPMG, the initial one was a guy named Gordon Walsh. Gordon just believed in me. I was a little redneck from Georgia out in California. I was literally in a class of people from Stanford, people from Yale, people from Santa Clara, all these big schools, Berkeley. And then there was me from West Georgia College. And initially, folks just wanted to hear me talk. It was hysterical.
You got an accent?
Yeah, exactly. But by the end of my second year, I was the most chargeable senior in that Bay Area practice. By then, my third year, I was ranked number 1 in my class. And so it's very upper out there. It's kind of brutal. Every year, they cut the bottom 25% out of the class.
Sure.
So Gordon saw something in me early on. Maybe it's because I volunteered for anything that would come down the pike, from inventories on New Year's to whatever it took. And he put me on all his jobs and really coached me on the ways of business. Then I would say next big person in my life would be a guy named Bill Stringless. Bill was president of Mrs. Smith's Bakeries. And so, as I mentioned, I got hired as CFO of Mrs. Smith's. And Bill was the first one to really see something other than an accountant in me. So Bill, at one point, gave me IT and HR and supply chain. A year later, once he saw what I did with that, he gave me purchasing and marketing. And then the next year, he gave me all the plants. So you can imagine, Brad, I'm 33 years old, and I got, 3,000 employees. I got people twice my, 20 years old.
32, you said?
32 years old.
Wow.
So he basically created a management training program just for you. He rotated you into all these different departments. And
Bill and I
that's how they do it with the big companies, right?
He was so passionate about what he did, and I latched onto that. And he gave me my first big break to run a plant. So I ended up being senior VP of operations at Mrs. Smith's, and ended up selling it eventually. And so that would be kind of the biggest probably mentor in my life, because he gave me that executive role.
Sure.
I always wanted outside of accounting.
So, I could go so many different directions with this, but you marketing and HR and all of these things, backing up to what you said, you were a numbers guy. You went in with a finance, specialty, if you will, and then you're taking over marketing and HR and all these things you're not familiar with. How did you adapt, and how did you, succeed at the highest level in those departments you had no experience in?
Great question. Trial and error. All right. It is true. You can't be successful without making mistakes.
Sure.
And so I view, and this is how I coach all the folks under me, I view a person's career as like a pyramid. And the more along the bottom of that pyramid you can work. If you imagine offices and different departments along the bottom of that pyramid, well, the more higher in that pyramid you're going to go. Okay. So if you only work 3 different departments, then you're going to get to the top of that smaller pyramid, but you're not going to be at the top of the big one. And so I've coached people, always take chances, always go into areas that you're not familiar with, whether it's HR, IT, marketing, whatever that is, and learn. And I think you just go in with the same kind of attitude. It's about the people. You surround yourself by people that know what they're doing. You learn. I book study. I read books myself. I listened to podcasts, tapes, and I just, educated myself. And then I would mentor the people within that was actually smarter than me. But they would see the passion in myself, and we would bond. And so it was really about making a team that can support you.
Love that. And I just, from my own personal experience, I was a salesperson, right? I really good at selling insurance. And then I became good at recruiting insurance agents. And then I thought I was building a business, but in reality, I was just recruiting salespeople, training salespeople. I wasn't running a P&L. I wasn't it was just kind of, recruiting and sales training. And then you start a company with real employees, and you start to learn about HR, and you start to learn, and these things are very, complex. And there's a lot of people that are, much more talented in those spaces than me, those departments than me. But it doesn't mean you don't have to know as much as you possibly can learn about that particular subject. And so to hear that is really cool. But I'm gonna ask you again in a little bit of a different way. What was the one skill, 1 or 2 skills that led you to be successful in all of those different departments beyond just the drive to learn them, right?
Well, I appreciate the background in sales. That's an important part of the P&L, right? This is tip of the spear is the sales department. But it all comes back down to a number. Everything we do, even this podcast or your insurance company behind those doors or the roofing company or whatever that is, it all comes down to a number. And I think having that background in finance and accounting, I always knew the number.
Sure.
And so when I walked into a room, that was my set. That's what I brought. And they could say anything, but ultimately it comes through a P&L and a balance sheet, and it comes down to a number.
Right. Well, I think I can tell by it's an advantage for you, right, coming from the numbers world. And the stereotypical accountant is a nerd that doesn't have personality, doesn't have leadership skills.
It's true,
and
Felipe. It's true.
Your personality jumps off the table, and your leadership skills.
I left my pocket pen at home. I follow my little pocket protector and my clip.
No, but I get it. The numbers are the truth. Everything else is just discussion, and the discussion might still be important, but at the end of the day, the numbers are always the truth.
And the master of that is how you get your team to make those numbers better. and you engage that team.
Sure.
And we'll hopefully talk about it later on, but you make that team part of that company. You give them skin in that game.
Have you read The Great Game of Business, Jack Stack?
I started. I haven't finished it, but I have started.
Great book. It reminds me what you're talking about.
Very
And
good book.
that was International Harvester. That it was an employee-owned company that became an employee-owned company. It was going under. Employees kind of rebuilt it, and it was all. The janitor all the way up to the executive team understood the P&L, what their position meant to the numbers, and it was all tied back, and it was all very transparent. So that's what that reminds me of. And so kind of just jumping ahead, the real reason you're here, Cabinetworks, right? That's
Sure.
a company that, sought after you. You joined that organization how long ago?
May of 2024.
Okay, and you made some adjustments and turned that company profitable. But what in your experience has led you to, being successful in that role as quickly as, it's been a little over a year, right? So
A little over a year.
you turn that ship around. What's when you walked in, you're like, all right, I can see we got to do this, this, and this. What were those few things you did to turn that around as quickly as you have?
Yeah, I'd like to think it was a playbook, but it was actually probably luck in a sense.
Sure.
Yeah, I walked in and I assessed the business. And I immediately knew we had to restructure the company, take out cost. We had structured the company to be X, it was at Y, and I needed to match that Y. And so what led to the success, however, is the fact I was able to bring my team over fairly quickly. I've been there, 14 months or so. And from my old team, I brought over 12 people. And so when you have people you've worked with before and they start right away with you, they already know your vision from the past. And so I didn't necessarily have to communicate that vision. I just had to direct and how to get there. And so that's probably the biggest thing that helped me get Cabinetworks turned around, getting my team back behind me and not having to play quarterback myself.
I love that. So you've got your team of 12. These people have, and feel free to join in, guys. I'm gonna attack this
we tend to let you go when you get like that.
So you've got your team of 12, right? I imagine your team of 12, and I'm just kind of envisioning you starting out. I don't know how long this team goes back with you, but this team wasn't always killing it, right? You helped, you learned from them probably as much as you coach them as well. I know that I do. I think that I've got some great talent around me. Some of it I've developed, some of it they've done on their own, and I've learned just as much from them. But they probably weren't like uber successful in the early days, and they've kind of come up with you through the ranks. And how did you in the early days cast that vision in a way that allowed them to stay planted where they were without getting, because what happens is sometimes you're like, listen, you're going to be a millionaire someday. You say things like that. Next thing you know, they're going right there, but they're not doing the work to get there because they're like, oh, it's already going to happen. Like it's going to happen. How did you cast vision, but keep them planted and focus in their roles while, sharing, hey, the future is going to be huge for us, but you've got to do X, Y, and Z first.
I think it helps when you go through hard times together. It's kind of like who you want in the foxhole, next to you, right?
Looking for some hard times, I guess.
Well, we did. We went through the great housing recession here.
Sure.
You guys remember that. 2007 to 2012, it was brutal. Yeah. And we were ground zero here in Florida. New construction, speculation, the market crashed.
Yeah.
In 2006, I think we had 220-something thousand housing starts. In 2010, we had 25,000. So it went from 220,000 to 25,000. It was like slamming on the brakes.
Huge.
Well, when you go through tough times like that, you bond. You learn who's really on your team, who really sees that vision that you have to cast. And I would say, as myself as a leader, I have to be consistent. I can't come in one day and want Y, and the next day I want X, and it's like a shotgun approach.
Sure.
You have to cast that vision, and you have to be consistent in that leadership style you present to those folks. Whether it's opportunities, whether it's rewards, like you'd said earlier, payout at the end, or leadership, the ability for them to lead outside their box.
Yeah.
So if it was an HR or salesperson, probably one of the biggest success stories I have is my chief people officer. When I met her, she was VP of sales. So, she went from sales and marketing to running the culture of the company. Sure. And that was only possible because, you give them that opportunity and you see something in them like somebody saw in me, and you're consistent with that delivery.
So you guys
Right
had
person, right
a
seat.
CPO, a chief people officer,
Yeah.
not choosing charge of the culture of the company.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
technically I am, but she represents the vision.
Yeah, that's a nice title for like a chief of HR or
CHRO, Chief Human Resource Officer. Yeah.
That's just a better way to put it, right? Like they're not human resources; they're people.
Not a lot of corporate speak in the roofing industry, huh?
I get it all the time. Like last night. So we we just wrapped up our what we call ROI, which is rest of year. So we have AEP, which is like Super Bowl. We have OEP, which is like kind of playoffs. AEP comes first, playoffs come second, so it's backwards. But then we have ROI. And even just the sound of rest of year just kind of doesn't sound that good. So we just wrapped it up. And as you get into ROI, it gets harder and harder and harder for agents to sell. And, morale kind of decreases with that. Well, we go out to, happy hour last night to just wrap up the rest of the year, give the agents some R&R. And I can't tell you how many people are like, this is my boss. This is my boss. And I'm like, listen, I'm not your boss, right?
Right.
I'm hopefully your leader. And I'm hopefully, just the one that runs the company you work for.
I prefer the term
but
czar.
I'm not your boss, right? And no, but it's serious. It's no, I don't, not czar, not czar. But so when I started this company 3 years ago, I went so deep in operations that I stopped coaching and casting vision. And so now I'm in a season where it's like, all right, this next year is all about coaching. It's all about investing in people. It's all about leadership development is my number one, goal, right? We have an organization that every single person from, executive down to agent has come in as an agent and worked their way up. And I love that. And we could go out and we could hire somebody, maybe not Jeff Jackson, but we could hire somebody to come in as a change agent. I would rather just coach and train and develop those individuals. So how often, tying this to the question, how often do you look outside the organization, or when do you look outside the organization, or when do you look in the organization?
Yeah, I think you need a mixture of both. So I'm constantly looking outside and looking inside. It's really not a set answer to that, other than you need both. And by the way, I prefer Grand Poobah, but nobody seems to know what the Flintstones are anymore. So
I love Grand Poobah, also a well-known rapper.
So I look both inside the organization and outside. The chief people officer is a prime example. She'd been with the company since she was like in her 30s, 37-year career. Wow. But at the same time, I hired a finance guy from the outside. Again, just depends on the talent in this inside and what's available on the outside. So
what makes you successful in integrating that person from the outside? Because that's not something that I've done really before.
Well, I came from the outside, so I know how it feels.
Okay.
So I just, once you come into a company that with a strong culture that's really embedded with people that's been there a long time, you know how it feels to go into that. And so I've never forgotten that. It
reminds me of like the new head coach. Like, I'm here to change the culture, like the rah-rah speech. And what does it take to get the previous employees to buy in?
Doing what you say. I'll go back to consistency. At Cabinetworks, let's put this at Cabinetworks.
Yep.
So at Cabinetworks, the first thing I did in my first town hall meeting, I told everyone, every quarter we have these town halls, I'm going to give back to the employees. Dude, I never heard that before. And when I did it, quarter one, quarter two, now last month, quarter six, every quarter, now they're like, geez, this guy's real. I should have shared some of the emails. I don't like to toot my horn, right? But I should share some of the emails that I get. Like, we're not used to this. You're like doing what you say, and that's what you do. You do what you say. Like the first thing I gave back to folks, we put in an hourly bonus program. The hourly folks, which is 5,000 individuals, had never had a bonus program at Cabinetworks.
Wow. And
now they do. We gave college scholarships to kids. That's one thing I did at PGT. I really relate it back to my past, I want to say learnings, but struggles. Growing up like I did, healthcare was an issue. How am I going to pay for college? I told you guys, I was a cop and I worked.
Yeah.
Basically worked. When my wife met me, my GPA was 1.79. All right, West Georgia College was going to politely suggest I may think about my career and others kick my ass out.
Just go full police. Just go full police.
Education's tough. Healthcare's tough. Getting skin in the game. My parents never owned stock. At PGT, I made every one of my shareholders, or every one of my team members, a shareholder.
Yeah.
5,000 people at a cost of over $12 million. Now, my board let me do it. But when I came to the board, they didn't say no. They didn't say no because I'd been consistent. I'd been consistent with things I'd told them before. They said, okay, if this worked, well, this will work. And it did. When we sold the company, everybody got a payday.
What's it like dealing with the board? Is it like on the movies or?
Hey, we're having a blast here getting to know Jeff Jackson and all about Cabinetworks. If you want to get to know Jeff a little bit further, stay tuned for rapid fire questions fueled by food and beer.
Hi, I'm Jeff Jackson, CEO of Cabinetworks, and this is Rapid Fire.
10 random questions, 10 specific answers, nothing off limits. This is Rapid Fire fueled by food and beer. Besides super chunk fudgy peanut butter ice cream, what's your favorite flavor?
Chocolate.
Do you have a favorite musical artist?
Tim McGraw.
Let me hear you say, truck, yeah, I wanna get it jacked up, yeah, let's crank it on up.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
We all know the answer to this, but do you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
Most definitely, one of my favorites.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This Christmas.
What's your favorite place to visit?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Who is the greatest superhero of all time?
That's a tough one.
I am inevitable.
I'm an Iron Man fan, I gotta tell you. I identify with that guy a lot. He struggled, but yet he was a superhero. So,
Who's the go-to-goats? Tom Brady or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Like Mike, if I could be like Mike.
If you could instantly become an expert at anything, what would it be?
My wife. I just, yeah. I love her with everything in me, but I'd love to be an expert on it.
Better than I devote myself to studying the other great history of the universe. Women.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Damn, that's a tough one. More compassionate. Look how cute you are. You're like a cutie pie. You're a cutie pie.
Besides jump, what's the worst advice you've ever been given?
I would have to say I was told I shouldn't go to college. I should stay a police officer. So that'd been the worst advice I'd ever received.
I have only one thing to say to you today. It's a jungle out there. You gotta look out for number one, but don't step in number two.
What's it like dealing with a board? Is it anything like it is in the movies? Are there any hostile takeovers?
No. It's actually, again, it gets back to the executive dealing with the board. The board's job is the success of the company. And therefore, what's the definition of company?
Profit.
A gathering of a group of people.
3 people or more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's a company.
Sure.
So it's the team that's there. So the board's job is to take care of the company. All right, so working with the board, I've loved. I had an incredibly supportive board at PGT. At Cabinetworks, I still have the same supportive board, only because I do what we say we're going to do, my team and I. So, and I'm personally on 3 different public company boards. So I'm one of those board, member dudes now, and it's fun.
I'm glad you defined company though, because I think a lot of times these days when you think about boards, people assume that everything they do is just for the shareholder.
Yeah,
the shareholder is only one aspect of the company, right?
That's exactly
It's
right.
also the employees and then the clients.
You're exactly right.
Right. So.
We looked at it as 3: team or the employees, the shareholders, and then the customers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was our 3-legged stool on that.
But what size company needs a board, just from your opinion? How big is this company?
It could be any size. Your insurance company. Yeah, I'm sure.
That's why I'm asking.
You could use some advice.
Sure.
I use it. No matter what size company, I think a confident CEO or leader always wants to hear that what he's not getting or what he may be getting right, so he does it more. So I don't think size dictates the need for a board.
Revenue.
Maybe the number of board members, but surely not a board.
Revenue, like you have a company
You
with
got
5
startups.
people.
You got startups.
So you could even, I mean, if you want to get crazy, you could even have a personal board. I mean, some of these like books advocate
It's
that
like
kind
your
of thing.
mentor. Yeah,
you know, you have 3 mentors that you like,
advisors.
and you go to them with the big decisions.
And that's
price
how I
is
actually
right.
got on Smith Douglas. Smith Douglas Homes. It was Tom Bradbury owned it. It was his family. He created on his board because he wanted folks like myself and others giving him advice on how he grows his company. And this is I think Tom's 80 now. Multi-successful guy. Sold his company back before the downturn in housing. Built another company. We took it public in January 2024.
Timed the market.
Worth over $1 billion. He's personally he's worth. So multi-successful guy, but he still asked me, to join his board and give him advice. So I think it can be private, it can be family owned, because that's where Smith Douglas started out.
I love what you said about having your employees all have stock and giving them those quarterly bonuses or incentives. I mean, it really speaks to your focus on the culture. But what it really does is it takes culture back to your accounting background. The numbers don't lie, right?
For sure.
You get those many pizza parties as you want. At the end of the day, if the company's making money and you're not incentivizing the employees by the numbers,
Right.
You're not doing the right thing.
Yeah, when I look at a business, I always start with the balance sheet and P&L. I'll look and see what the assets are there, what's in play, what programs are we running, what customer base do we have. And you can add all that up, and that's going to get you to a certain number. To get that number larger, you have to engage your team, the employees, okay, the team members that work for you. And that's where the bonus incentives come in. That's where the college scholarships for their kids are. I opened up a free healthcare clinic at PGT down here in Venice. I just did the same thing in Middlefield, the largest cabinet company in the U.S. in Middlefield, Ohio. Now has free healthcare for their families.
That's killer.
So you do stuff like that. Then that employee, that team member, I hate the word employee, that team member.
Just like boss.
Yeah, exactly. That team member then has incentive to do better. They just do it, and it works.
And they're also stickier, right? Once they have great healthcare in-house, like why would they go anywhere else?
You're exactly right.
The city of Sarasota just opened their own clinic for the city employees.
And they should, because they're self-insured.
Right, it
so
makes sense.
ultimately they're going to pay for it.
You're on the hook
Do
anyway.
they want to control it or not?
100%. You just said you have to engage the company. So I saw Tony Robbins a couple weeks ago, and it was actually really cool because what I was expecting didn't necessarily happen, and he was real consultative. It wasn't his normal motivational coaching. Of course, he did that at the end. But one thing that he talked about that kind of was really eye-opening is that the number one problem plaguing businesses in America right now is employee engagement. So you talk about engaging the employee. That's going to garner a response of them engaging more. And so one of the things we're focused on is helping our employees, our agents, our partners, if you will,
team members
become more engaged. And so obviously the healthcare and the bonuses and all of those things are helping them become more engaged. But beyond that, what's kind of from a coaching standpoint, something you do to help engage your employees?
Well, the other thing we do, and I did it at PGT and I'm doing it at Cabinetworks, is we bring on-site counseling. I actually hire a counselor, spiritual coach for our folks, and that individual has taken them through Dave Ramsey courses, helps them financially to save money, live on a paycheck, live like you can live instead of above your means. That individual has taken them through 21 Laws of Leadership, John Maxwell. You basically offer individuals a chance to grow their mind. Right,
Sure.
Not just the paycheck, not just the promotions, but their mind and how they interact with the world, their family, how they interact with family, how they interact with team members, and how they interact with society.
That's pretty cool.
It's crazy
because it doesn't matter who you are. You can't go to work and leave all your problems at home, right?
You can't.
So that's coming with you to the workplace one way or another. You might as well be addressing that.
We do request that they do that, though. I do request.
They leave
Leave it at the door.
Check yourself at the door.
You put a sign above the door. I'm like,
Every
there was a
training,
sign,
every new agent training. Listen, check yourself at the door.
Trey just throws them off the roof. So you got a solution.
There's a famous saying in roofing: if you fall off the roof, you're fired before you hit the ground.
So it helps.
That's what you're talking about. That is true.
So what are the? Obviously, Cabinetworks is kind of your primary focus now.
Yes.
What are the biggest challenges, and then what?
Well, I've kind of got one in that vein that I think people would be interested to hear. The role of
Sure,
CEO.
mine sucked anyways.
No, but it's going the same way you are, right? The role of CEO has changed since you started, right? In the last, and the way I'm asking about is it used to be that CEOs were quietly operating in their little corner of the world. Maybe they were famous in their town or their company. Now it's such a public position. We're in the era of all these superstar public CEOs that everybody feels like they got to be a darn rock star. You know what I mean? And some of them are putting their foots in their mouths, right? Because they're getting on these YouTube videos and
doing things they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So how do you? How has that been?
How do you not put your foot in your mouth?
No, but just being a CEO of a big company in the modern world, like how do you make that adjustment? Have you noticed those changes in your roles?
That's a great question. First, I'd add to that statement. I think the CEO role is constantly changing. Mm-hmm. All right, it doesn't just change and you're there for a while. It seems like there's something different coming every time. Now it's AI. How am I going to integrate AI into all the thought process?
Sure.
There's something always coming at you. But I think it gets back to your basics, grounding of who you are, and being consistent with the message you deliver and taking care of your team. That's the core of what a CEO does. The culture, the strategy, the team building, that'll never go away. And I think if you master that, all the other stuff, all the jets or all the stupid stuff CEOs can do, all that goes by the wayside.
Gotcha. Well,
jets are stupid.
What prompted that question? There was a guy who kind of went viral because he did a YouTube announcement about why he cut his employees' pay by 50% when they moved the plant to Oklahoma. I don't know if you guys saw that from California.
That. No.
And he didn't cut his pay because he's like, well, I still live in California. So I still have the expense structure. Okay. And it's like, I thought it was
justification. Right. I thought you were talking about like a certain CEO that went to a concert or something.
No.
That's what I thought you were going.
That's right.
No, this guy. But the fact that he was defending it, that was even worse than almost doing it in the first place.
You have to do the same thing or actually more than you expect your employees to do. During the downturn, we had pay cuts. Yeah. At PGT, all the salary, all the executives, Rod, myself, everybody took a pay cut. But I'll tell you something, and a lot of people learn this later. When we first got out of the, kind of the first AIP, annual incentive plan, we actually made again in 2012. Rod and I shared our bonus with our folks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we came together because we didn't make 100% of the plan. We made about 75.
Right.
And he and I got together and we said, it'd be nice to pay everybody 100% of their AIP after the last 5 years. Hard. No AIP, closing plants, taking cost out. And I said, I 100% agree. And so we gave our AIP bonus. We had to ask the board because, it's a board thing. And they agreed. And we gave our bonus to fund 100% of the employees' bonus.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I bet you had some engagement after that, huh?
We did. Now, I never told my wife, so she's going to be pissed. That was my question. Holy cow.
It was some nickels. No big deal. No big deal. Wouldn't even pay for the jet for one trip. It's fine.
Let's get into some of the specifics of Cabinetworks. Sure. You guys are a manufacturer. What's your strategy for distribution?
We go through both the mom and pop local dealers that will install, in an R&R kind of repair and remodeling type basis, all the way to Home Depot and Lowe's. They're two of our biggest customers. Menards, those big boxes, if you want to call it that. And so we distribute both, also to builders, public builders, Lennar, Pulte, Toll Brothers.
Homes by Strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Homes by Strong.
Exactly.
That's what he's really getting at.
So those are our three channels we go through.
Now, do you guys separate that as far as sales, people that sell directly towards the big box versus Target, mom and pop builders, or?
Yeah, we got people that specialize in each category. Like we call the big box retail. Okay, so Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. We got teams because they're so big that concentrate all their efforts on how do you grow those stores, same store sales or new store openings. We're there with samples and displays. So that's a whole different market than if it's Trey's dealership down the road and he's always been there.
Homes by Strong.
It's just not Trey's Homes Restaurant.
Homes by Strong.
Homes Restaurant.
Let the man continue. He's on a roll.
So it's just a different set of skills. Not necessarily, I'll take that back. It's not necessarily skills. It's just we tailor our offerings to what that end customer needs. And it's a different set of needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it all unfinished or finished cabinets, or like what are the, just for people that don't know anything about the cabinet business?
Sure. We have a multitude of brands. We have the largest brand in the U.S. called Craft Made.
Oh, okay. I think that's a name a lot of people would
Yeah, a lot of people will know. Oh, you want to work for Craftmade. You know, Cabinetworks owns it. But yeah, that's our biggest, that'd be our bread and butter, you know, so to speak. It's the largest brand in the U.S., selling brand in the U.S. And you'll find those at Home Depot, Lowe's, or the local dealers. So we got our top brands we call 4 core: Craftmade, Menards, Medallion, and a brand called Smart. And each of those target different markets. The Smart brand, for instance, is a more opening price point. So you'll find those in more starter homes, multifamily projects, you know, things of that nature, more volume play. And then you got our custom-made, top-of-the-line, you know, solid wood Medallion, which goes into higher-end homes, more one-offs, really top-end.
Like full custom stuff?
Full custom, full custom. Okay. And then we have a plethora of brands up underneath them.
Do you white label anything for other people?
You know, we will put a label on some things, depending on the customer, who it is. Not for a local dealer, but like if Home Depot wants to put something on a label that goes into their pro side of the business. Their pro side meaning the side that deals with the home, the new home builders,
installation and all that.
Yeah, we'll work with somebody like that to do that, but we don't do a lot of that now.
Okay.
What's your strategy as you're leading this company with, you know, 8,000 employees? How are you staying connected with every facet of it? I mean, obviously not every facet, but the important things, because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, communication is key. We have quarterly town hall meetings. I am taking those on the road. So our last town hall meeting wasn't at our corporate headquarters. It was at our Middlefield, Ohio plant. And we had like 4 of them because the plant's so big, you could only get 300 or 400 people in at a time. The next town hall meeting is going to be in Oregon at our Independence facility there. So, you know, we do one-on-one personal meetings, town hall style. And
so town hall, I picture you standing up there saying, "Who's got the questions?"
That's exactly how it is.
And then the janitor raises his hand like, "Damn it, we need better spick and span."
You would be amazed. That's exactly how it is. At the end, there's a Q&A, and I let anybody ask anything they want. The last town hall, for instance, people wanted another 5 minutes on their 10-minute break. Look, really? That's all you want?
That's a lot of pressure.
Done.
Right there.
And I got it. Wow, we never had somebody just do it on the spot. Well, it's 5 more minutes. It's on 2 breaks. You're talking 10 minutes out of a day. I would want 15, not 10. I just put myself in their shoes, you know?
Yeah.
So
you didn't even have to ask the board for that, huh?
No. I am. Yeah. In a private company, it's a little different. I get to make 99% of the decisions. Platinums, they own a lot of companies.
Platinum Equity?
Platinum Equity.
Oh, I know those guys.
They own a lot of companies.
One of my buddies did some work with them.
Yeah, and they're great operators. They stay out of my business, quite frankly, and they let me run it. And which is one thing I love.
The Gores brothers.
There's one now.
There's one now.
That owns Platinum. The other brother owns his own private equity.
So when they brought you on to Cabinetworks, what was the here's where we're at? We just want to be profitable, or here's where we want to go in 10 years? What's the longer term vision for that?
Yeah, I'd say
marching orders.
Combination of both. Okay. They bought Cabinetworks right after COVID, 2022, and end of 21, beginning of 2022. And so when they bought it, Cabinetworks was like any other building products company. They were coming off a COVID backlog. You know, supply chains was challenged in 2020. So 2021 and 2022, if you couldn't make money in the building products industry, you shouldn't have.
You're a big loser.
Yeah, exactly. Because demand had built up so high.
You could say, hey, it'll be there in 10 weeks. And they're like, all right, fine. Whatever.
Yeah. And only half of it show up. Okay, can I get the other half in 5? You know,
that post-COVID volatility has caused problems for a lot of private equity-owned companies because, right, the valuations,
they skyrocketed
weird,
then.
Sure. And then you make plans and... You know, talk to us about that.
After COVID, right?
Right,
it's kind
exactly.
of like you have COVID, then you get over it. But so they bought it right after that. So the backlog was high, and the company was headed more towards $2 billion. We'll be about 1.7 this year. And that's 4 years later almost. So it didn't perform as well as they had hoped because demand tapered off after COVID because of that pull forward, like you'd mentioned. And so, when they brought me in, they said, look, we know we got some troubled plants. We were losing some money in certain brands. We want to consolidate brands. We want you to delever the company and take cost out and change out your team and hit a certain profit goal. And then they'll look to refi the company. Basically, is what we're going to do eventually. And eventually sell it. Private equity sells companies or takes them public.
The construction economy right now, how do you feel about it? Are you a little pessimistic? Are things slowing down?
Things have slowed down. R&R, our repair and remodeling, is 2/3 of our business. R&R is at 2019 levels. Okay, so it's 2025. So R&R market's been tough, and that's been tough mainly the last, call it 24 months, because interest rates. Yeah. Interest rates went from 2.5%. Interest rates grew 3,000%,
right?
In like 12 months. And so that really slowed everything down. I guess that's what the federal government Fed wanted. And so we're starting to see, with this rate cut we had a couple of weeks ago, wasn't enough in my opinion. I wanted a half a point.
Didn't they say they're going to do 2 more before the end of the year, though?
That's the rumor.
Yeah.
That's the rumor. If they do 2 more for the end of the year, I think we'll be in the 5% 30-year fix next year. 5, maybe 5.5. And being on a board of a public company home builder, what requires somebody to sign? About a 5.5% rate. That's the magic rate.
That's the sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot. So what home builders are having to do is buy that rate down. Okay, so that home is whatever, $400,000. They're going to give you money on that home when you get your loan to buy that rate down.
That's coming out
to make it feel 5%.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly what's happening. And so once those rates get more than that 5.5%, I think you're going to see a boom in the economy. And then you got people in the R&R market that's sitting on, more. I got a condo I bought in Little Key, but 6 years ago. I'm paying 2.25%. All right, so you got people
Can't get rid of it.
I'm not. I'm not going to do anything that loan. I can pay it off, but I'm not going to do that. It's free money. So you got people that earn these mortgages are lines 4.5%, 5%. Once those get, again, closer to 5, that's going to create those folks to buy new homes because they've been sitting in their home now for a while. They hadn't moved up. They've had another couple of kids, but they can't get rid of that mortgage.
Right. It's like a limit order. Once we get that rate down there, they're going to hit.
They're going to hit.
And then they're going to be able to move.
I think you're going to have a couple of years of just solid growth.
Yeah.
So what the hell are we waiting for? 2 more cuts.
2 more cuts.
Then you have a lot of people refi.
Easy math.
And now your renovation comes back.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you'll get the 30-year fix down into, call it low 5s. You'll get that 10-year, the HELO loans. You'll get those to start, that spread to start happening and occurring. Get those down, and you'll have a vibrant economy.
Plus, I would think the refi, but also a lot of people, when they move into a new to them home, they're making those improvements. Right?
Oh, absolutely. The remodeling, the roofing, all that stuff hinges largely in part on the house transferring.
Yeah.
Right. You're exactly right.
So new buyers come in and they're ready to spend the money to make it theirs.
Yep. That's the kitchen's not it's expensive. I mean, roof is expensive. Let's get real. We make good products and you get paid for it. But a kitchen can be anywhere from a low of 30 to a high of 100. Depending on
high of more than that.
I'm building my house right now. I think we spent $70,000 plus on the kitchen cabinets alone.
I'm talking cabinets only.
Should have went through Cabinetworks.
Everything else.
Should have went through. You could have got the medallion cabinets.
And I'd give you a discount.
Yeah, you're about.
He does
4
always
weeks
buy
too
from
late.
the guests. So.
I do always buy from the guests. I do. Maybe I'll be a medallion certified dealer.
You got the guy you can talk to right here.
Good deal.
So we're going back and forth here a little bit. We're going to transition to some Sarasota questions in a few, but one of the things I wanted to ask you that I haven't got to is windows, cabinets, candy, food trucks. I don't know what you want to call Schwann's. I mean, I'm so sad that company's not crushing it still because we used to order from them all the time. Yeah. But all of these companies are very different. Obviously, supply and demand, the laws of business apply. But how have you adapted in these different scenarios with different types of businesses?
Me personally?
Sure. As a CEO,
I think
executive.
Leadership is fungible. It can spread. And so I think as long as you stick to a certain core set of beliefs, do what it takes, work hard, leader, be a leader, not a boss. Yeah. Be consistent, build a team. Don't be afraid to surround yourself by smart people. I think all that's transferable. I don't like it when you got these big CEOs or for these big companies and, they're the CEO of a division and now they want to come out and run a company on their own. Those are the people you see struggle. Those are the big turnovers you'll see in the CEO ranks because now they're making the cultural decisions. Now they're dealing with HR issues and
stuff they weren't dealing with before.
They had corporate doing that for them. So
right,
it's just
right. They go from being a fiefdom to a king.
Exactly.
And they don't know all the different roles.
What's that? The way to the head, the crown sets on.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
That's exactly right. That's some truth to that because you got to make decisions.
But, kind of a good segue into Sarasota. I was kind of curious about this. We always talk about how our economy here isn't as diverse as some other places, just in terms of with the big companies and the big corporations. But the one exception to that is in the real estate development and associated fields, right? I'm just curious what it felt like to be somebody in that space in a town like this, where everybody's looking at you. Everybody's looking at what's going on in real estate development. It's like being at the top of Wall Street in New York City.
Sure.
Would be the analogy I would use.
Yeah, when I was either on the chamber or the EDC, I've been on both those committees or those groups at some point in my career. We'd want more high tech paying jobs. We want more higher salary paying jobs versus the standard hourly rate jobs. And the economy here is really, I'd say, entertainment based. If you think about it, because we're the beaches, hospital, healthcare, service type industries, and it's not ever attracted heavy manufacturing. PGT being the exception. And I think it deals with once you start having the development we have here, let's face it, the prices go up. I'm for prices going up, believe me, but the prices can go up so much that it makes it hard to attract manufacturing talent into a town like this because of housing affordability. And it's been an issue. I think the city and county are now addressing it much more aggressive than they ever have, which I like to see. Yeah,
I agree with you there because I think people are figuring out after pandemic that, wow, housing is a real issue.
It is.
Everybody was stuck 100%. At home and figuring out that, they needed to do a little better. Right?
What's funny about that though is so when I started Signature Medicare 3 years ago, I said, be happy to get you 50. Forgive me for the small vision, but I was like 50 agents in the office would be a real feat in Sarasota, right? Like this is just not. There's not very many operations that do what we do, but with all of the rising prices and things like that, my agents are making great money, for the most part. There's people that aren't going to make it, right? But my agents are making great money in a livable wage to stay in Sarasota. And I think that is totally been accredited to some of the success. Of course, we've done a great job recruiting and, retaining talent, of course, but it's kind of happenstance, right? We started this company 3 years ago and prices were going crazy. And now people need an opportunity where they control some portion of their income. And there's very little barrier to entry in what we do. So it's not, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to school for years to learn insurance. You get an insurance license. We're going to do all the training. We're going to provide you all the tools and resources to be successful. And so, I think that if on the manufacturing side, just to kind of relate it to that, if you're paying a decent wage and you've got benefits like, free health care and a bonus structure and all of these things, that's probably partially what built that company so big. Is like that was a great opportunity for people in this area.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We tried to play to the need of the local talent. And the need was, healthcare. The need was a decent wage, but you couldn't pay exorbitant wages.
Yeah, of course.
It's a window, $140 window. So it's only, and so you're exactly right. So we just dictated our benefit programs to their needs.
It's weird. Usually the knock on why we don't have more bigger businesses in this area is they say, well, it's hard for us to recruit the talent due to the education. Which is often the knock here, which is weird. Well. Yeah, you said you were on the EDC. I've heard a lot of those things too. Yeah. But it's weird because Florida technically has the #1 public higher education system in the United States right now. Yeah, and we're still hearing that. So it's just
I think Florida's an incredible. I think
they're just
state.
Grabbing straws there.
Maybe.
Right?
They are. I think they're grasping. I think Florida's an incredible state to do business. Whether it's the balanced budget the state always has, whether it's the infrastructure. Look, these are great roads. I'm driving up north now.
Speaking of roads.
And dude, it can be brutal up there sometimes driving on those back roads in Michigan. Florida has incredible infrastructure. They got the beaches, they got arts, they got restaurant, they got the entertainment. They got it all.
No state tax.
No state tax.
That's helpful. Exactly. And, again, a nice business-friendly environment.
So you've been splitting time now in your new role between here. So you're still kind of in our community where you almost came up as a CEO here. I feel like
I did.
Right.
My first CEO gig was here.
So your family's still here, or how are you managing that process?
Yeah, they are. Well, my wife and I live on Bird Key, right outside the Sarasota here. We love it. We've been there almost 8 years now.
What street?
What street?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of roofs out there.
I'm going to
Tell you off.
You go look up at the property.
I mean, it's a private community. We got a guard check.
There's no guard ever in that shack.
Yeah, I know.
What
But
Trey
nobody
really
else knows that.
What Trey really wants to know is how
thanks,
old's your
buddy.
roof?
Exactly. Nobody wants. But yeah, so we're local. We live there. My kids. My middle daughter just moved back, and I bought her a house on Siesta Key, so she's on the Grand Canal there. We're putting in my cabinets, my
There you go.
former impact windows, and they're scheduled to move in there in December. That's my middle daughter, and she's got 2 kids. I got a couple of grandkids, and then my youngest daughter's a pilot. Actually, she corrected me the other day. She said, "Dad, I'm a flight training instructor, a CFA." So she's training pilots now. She's got about 600 hours. She works in Arizona at AeroGuard. So she ultimately wants to get the 1,500 or whatever it is, magical number of hours, and get picked up by an airline. And then my oldest daughter, we bought her a house last year in Studio City, California. So she does contract work for Netflix, Fox Network, and several other local
Netflix is right there. I've been in that.
God bless you with the 3 daughters.
It has been a blessing. All right, obviously I have 3
There
daughters.
were some difficult times.
You know, when I have 3 daughters, I wanted a boy. Okay, hold on. Let's face it. Every guy with 3 daughters wanted a boy.
Yeah.
I stopped. Thank God. I'd have kept going if I'd have known, but you never know. And so, but the 3 girls are my life.
Yeah, I bet.
They are. They really are. I'm close to all of them. So
I bet. Well, listen, you brought up roads, so we got a question to ask for you.
Sure.
Trey will position this.
Our friends over at Tom Ayer Law and Trey Martell want to know, what are your thoughts on roundabouts? Do you love them or do you hate them? And do they have roundabouts in Michigan?
I personally love roundabouts. I don't like the people that are driving in those roundabouts.
Man, we're getting that answer more and more often.
I do. When I hit the roundabout, as long as there's no idiot in front of me, it's good. It's quick.
Yeah.
The problem is when you have, I got to watch what I say here. When you have individuals who stop when they shouldn't stop and wait when they shouldn't wait. I mean, it's a process. I also hate people that drive hate's a bad word. I also dislike people that drive in the left lane. Get out of the left lane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Either pass or drive 85, 90 miles, whatever, but get out of the left lane. The interstate system is built for a reason, and it'll work if you drive it right. Roundabouts will work if you drive them right.
Amen. And they're better than traffic lights for sure. We've at least come to that point. But Felipe, why do we ask that question?
We ask that question because it's a polite and fun way for us to ask how people feel about growth and change in Sarasota. You've been here a long time. You can see Sarasota's not the same town it was 8-10 years ago.
It is not. Being in construction, I've got to like growth and change. Let's face it. More selfishly, in the past, more windows, and now more cabinets. So I got a little skin in this game, but so I'll never say I don't like that. So I love it.
But you're also national.
But it has changed. It has changed when they started building. I think it was the View to start with. Again, that whole section now, you really can't. It's just changed. My wife made a comment the other day. We were coming back from dinner from Oceans Prime. She said, "Man, it's getting like Miami," because it's just your buildings for that little piece. When you used to weren't buildings, you were a bay. Some people struggle.
Personally, I feel like that's an insult. It's not getting like Miami. That's a stretch. God forbid we ever get like Miami.
I know what she means.
But you know what she means, right?
The example
The
that
sky is falling. That's what she means.
No, it's you ever been to Las Olas in Fort Lauderdale?
Yes.
How it's like a little canyon in that stretch?
Yeah.
That's what she means.
That's what she means.
Once they build
You got
enough of
beach
these,
on one side, you got nothing on the other.
Yeah,
I
but
can't
all this growth allows for the nice restaurants and things of that nature. Ocean Prime on a Sunday night with your baby.
You hear me say otherwise.
Yeah, and we learned something from the podcast, from having the podcast, is that Sarasota was kind of one of the few cities that's kind of bowl shaped, right? So our downtown is actually lower buildings than externally. So as you get closer to the beaches, the buildings are getting taller. I think that's silly, right? Like downtown should have tall buildings, and they should kind of go lower from there.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just common sense. It's just my opinion. But I don't know if we prepped you for this question or not, but operating the way you have in this community for as long as you have, surely you've got some good suggestions. So Felipe, I'll let you bring us home, buddy.
Okay, so you've been on Sarasota Speaks. You see what we do here. Appreciate you. Who do you know who we may not know who Sarasota needs to know? Who can you recommend me about?
I would say a good friend of mine named Chris Tomaso. He's CEO of First Watch.
Great.
First Watch has grown. I mean, they're right up the road.
For sure.
They're duly headquartered Lakewood Ranch in Cincinnati, right?
I wouldn't say duly. They're in Lakewood Ranch.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. Maybe at one point they were, but no, he's from here. He and I actually grew up in the same area when we first moved here. I was CFO of Mrs. Smith's. He was CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of First Watch, and they lived right by us. And so we kind of grew up together. It's just kind of funny. I made president of PGT. A year later, he made president of First Watch. I made CEO of PGT. 2 years later, he made CEO of First Watch. So we've just stayed in touch. We do family stuff together every now and then. And he would be a riot to get on here.
Safe to say you guys helped each other get there as well, huh?
Well, I helped him. We're
going to send him that clip.
He rode my coattails.
This is how we get him on the podcast. We send him that clip, and he's coming on.
Basically wanted to be like me.
Well, there's no doubt he's coming on now after that. So we really appreciate you coming on, Jeff, and best of luck at Cabinetworks. You're doing some great things.
It's been great. No, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, great seeing you guys.
Thanks a lot.